Boston College. He did it. He did it. Flutie did it.
I want to go higher.
Batted up.
Oh, God. Stokely down the side.
All right, so we've hit the quarter point of the season. 4 games in the books, coming up on 5. I think this episode I'll have come out on Saturday. So that's tomorrow. We have every team has played at least 4 games. We're past the Thursday games, so the Bucks have played one more. Actually, every team has not played 4 games now that I realize it. The Steelers and Titans did not play. So,
True. Way to go, Titans.
Yeah,
You
way
fucking
to go,
idiots.
Titans. But anyway, we're now kind of a quarter way through the season, starting to get an idea of what teams look like and what they have to offer. I think it's a good chance for us to look at those teams, the upper echelon, the upper echelon that, at least in the standings, that could potentially be contenders, and look at those who are up in the standings who could potentially be pretenders. Now, my definition of contender, just to set this clear, is a team you think can make it to the Super Bowl. It doesn't mean just get in the playoffs. It means get in the Super Bowl. We're going to eliminate the super obvious ones. Chiefs not going in there. We're not going to talk about them. Obvious contender.
Duh. Yeah.
Right? We're not going to talk about the Ravens. I don't think we need to. They're in that conversation. We're the really top team. Is there any other team we should just strike out from the conversation now?
I think those are the 2 fairly obvious ones.
Maybe the Packers?
I don't think they're super fairly obvious just for recent history, but, I think they're definitely a clear contender. That makes sense, so...
Okay, so let's start off with, who do we think is the biggest pretender in... Let's do it conference by conference. So let's do National Football League first, or National Football Conference. And let's talk about the obvious team there, which we both agree on, obviously, and that is...
Chicago Bears.
The Chicago Bears. All right, we got a team that's 4-1. They beat the Bucks last night, surprisingly. At one point, the Bucks were up 13-0, and I actually didn't get to watch the game. I was kind of busy. But... What did you see in that game? How'd they end up winning that? Because
Nick Foles lucking out.
Yeah.
The Buccaneers offense playing poorly. Horrible officiating. Not biased towards any one team, just awful officiating. And just bad luck on the Buccaneers' part. They had a drive where holding was called 4 times in a row, which is just not great. And there's the whole controversy where, did Tom Brady think it was 3rd down or 4th down?
Right.
Which, if he did, whatever. Is it a mental error? Yeah, but whatever.
It's not because he's old. It's not like he's 40.
Exactly.
It's not like he's 43 and senile.
There was one thing I read where it's like, if your whole thing is your brains and experience, and you don't know what down it is, what do you have to offer? And it's like, he has
a good arm.
Quite good at playing quarterback. So... that's just kind of a fluky game to me, as well as kind of a lot of the games on the Bears' schedule have been fluky games. The Falcons game, they should have lost that. The Falcons' defense is awful and doesn't know how to play deep balls at all. They continue to kind of luck their way into games, it seems like, not taking anything away from their defense. Their defense is quite good. Roquan Smith is kind of finally turning into what they thought Roquan Smith would be, and that's been a big deal. Their rookie corner, Jalen Johnson, has been playing fantastic. So their defense is legit, and their defense has been a big part of why they've won so many games. But I think their offense is too based on fluke plays and shit that works for no reason. Matt Nagy, it seems like whenever he doesn't know what to do, he's just like, just give Cordell Patterson the ball, see what happens. And that's only going to work. Luck only works for so long.
Right.
So... yeah.
How I pitched this to you, I sent you a text yesterday that the Bears were the new Vikings, where it's like their offense sometimes works, but you're never confident it's gonna work, and they have a great defense. And you're like, all right, well that could maybe win us some games, but do I think once we get to the playoffs that we're gonna win more than 1 or 2? No, I just don't see any situation where it's like we're playing a really good team. This seems like a team that's gonna lose every game to a really good team because their schedule has been and it will continue to be. They've played the Lions, the Giants, the Falcons.
Which the Lions also should have won that game, but DeAndre Swift dropped the game-winning touchdown. So it's again, just fluke plays that have kept them in the W column. So
and then going forward, they're playing the Panthers. Probably win that one. Then they got 2 tough games in a row. They got the Rams and the Saints. But then again, it's Titans. Who knows what that team's going to be by the time it finally gets on the field?
Yeah,
they're undefeated right now, but who knows if they even play a game again until
Whenever, yeah.
So that team, I just don't see. I think that season is lost for the Titans for the most part, unless something changes. And then they play the Vikings, who aren't playing great right now. Then the Packers, and they'll play the Packers twice. But then the division's super easy. They're gonna play the Lions again, and then the Texans, and then the Jaguars. Like they got an easy schedule ahead of them. It's gonna look good.
Yeah.
Some people are gonna try to call us out for saying they're pretenders because you'll be like, "Look, bro, we're like 13-3." Like, yeah, but
matter.
you played pancake opponents.
And your offense is bad. Like
Yeah.
it just like Nick Foles is your starting quarterback. People are like, well, he won a Super Bowl MVP. It's like I don't care.
He had a pretty good
Don't
team
care.
around him. He had a team that was already like. Well, let me talk about this because this was some salt from my end on that year.
Oh, geez,
when we had to play them, and they were the underdogs, even though they were like the
They
best
were
team
the
in the league
underdogs.
until their quarterback
Carson
went
Wentz
down.
was hurt.
But they were the best team. The whole team around him was so good.
But if 32 teams lost their starting quarterback, they'd be the underdog in any situation.
Well, I'm just saying, they had a great defense at that point. They had weapons around him, and Nick Foles isn't awful, but
He's okay. He's all right.
yeah.
He's fine.
So I just think the Bears aren't that. The Bears aren't the Eagles. They're not as talented on offense. As the Eagles were. So Nick Foles probably isn't going to take you to the promised land. Like, you can keep telling yourself that, but I don't see it. I think you remind me a lot of the Vikings in the last few years, where it's like, yeah, this great defense, but your offense is just inconsistent based on getting very lucky, and then your defense just holds them. You're like, oh, if our offense can score 20 points, we win.
Yeah.
That's kind
Which is not a bad problem to have.
Yeah,
So
but you need an offense that score 20 points. So
that's correct.
and that doesn't work too well in the playoffs, I don't think. So yeah, that's our obvious pretender there. Let's take a look at the AFC real quick. We might disagree on this one.
Okay.
I think I have mine.
You can go ahead and say yours first.
Do we wipe the Titans out of this?
Sure.
Yeah, because it's like,
Because we don't know the situation.
Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and say it's the Browns.
Okay. See, yeah, but I also, for the purposes of this discussion,
do you think the Browns can win a Super Bowl or get to the Super Bowl?
No, our defense is too bad. There's no way. Our defense is too bad.
Yeah.
Even at full health, our defense is pretty bad. It's also really young.
You also have a relatively easy schedule going forward.
Exactly, and that's been our schedule so far.
Mm-hmm.
We played a good team, and I know it's week 1, but the Ravens totally pieced us up. We beat the Bengals. That's a bad team.
But
we beat
only
the
by
Redskins.
5 points.
Yeah, because our defense is so bad. We beat, and Joe Burrow actually looks fucking good. You beat the Redskins. That's a bad team. You beat the Cowboys. Bad team. They're really beat up. So they have undrafted free agents starting at key positions, especially on the offensive line. So for the purposes of this conversation, sure, they're a pretender. But I'm not we're going to the Super Bowl.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, and I don't think anyone should expect that of the Browns. Now, my new favorite Cleveland Brown playoffs, maybe.
There's a good chance, especially with how it's set up now, where an extra team gets in.
Oh, jeez, I forgot about that. I don't know why they did that. I hate that.
Yes, I think there's a chance the Browns get in the playoffs. I think it's a pretty solid chance, just because of how easy their schedule is going forward.
I could see it. Like I said, I think our defense is, especially the second level of defense, is just too poor to really sustain anything. The Cowboys, we had them 40-14, and we almost lost the game going into the fourth quarter because we couldn't stop anything. Andrew Sandejo is probably the worst starting free safety that's my dog. I just wanted to frame. Don't know if that'll make the episode. Is probably the worst starting free safety in the league currently. He doesn't cover anything, and he can't tackle. So,
yeah, I guess the question then becomes, does your offense win in shootouts? The issue with that is you're running what the Vikings did, and we didn't win shootouts because it's such a team heavily relying on having the lead.
Sure. So we're not quite running what y'all ran. I think Kubiak's influence is felt a little more in the Vikings than it is for the Browns. We do have more of a vertical passing game. I think that also has to do with our personnel that the Vikings didn't have. Obviously, y'all had Stephon Diggs. But we have Odell Beckham Jr., clearly. We have 2 elite running backs, which changes everything, that was a fly just went into
I know. I looked at it. Right here.
Okay. Which changes everything. We have went from probably the worst O-line in the league to I would arguably say a top 5 performing O-line right now, which makes me very happy.
That's good. That's something the Vikings did not have. So
yes, and we have a quarterback
a lot better.
that can deliver a deep ball, and will do that under pressure. So that is nice.
Yeah. So I guess the question going forward is like, if you're going to be a team that doesn't have a great defense, you're going to have to win shootouts.
Yeah, I don't think we can.
You haven't quite been in one yet,
Yeah.
so when that comes, I think the Steelers game will probably be a good way to see if that works out.
We'll see.
I don't know about the Bengals again, maybe the Colts game, but I think
I'm actually excited for the Colts game.
Yeah, the Colts are good right now.
As I was for the Cowboys game, because I wasn't sure about the Cowboys yet. It's kind of going to be a see where we're at.
I need y'all. What I need to see from the Browns is them come back in a game. So they need to win a game where they're not in the lead.
I need to see them sustain a damn lead and not almost have me on I'm sweating my nuts off.
I think that's going to happen a lot, though. You know, I think that's what you're going to be based on. Is your defense going to keep giving up points and your offense is going to have to score. So I need to see one where you don't have the lead, and if your offense is versatile enough and has enough firepower to come back despite the bad defense.
The thing with our offense too that I've seen recently is we have a lot of like cutesy plays, which when they work look fantastic, and when they don't work, we threw a pass to
Kirk Cousins when Stefanski was there. So
when they don't work, they look so bad. Like the end around for Odell in the Cowboys game. Before he made Aldon Smith miss, I was like, that's the awful play call. That's so stupid. And then he made Aldon Smith miss, and then he scored. And I was like, well, okay, I guess it worked. But it's just I don't think the Browns are there yet. Wyatt Teller, who's my favorite new Cleveland Brown, he was like quoted on the sideline saying that like, you know, people in Dallas are going to be saying, oh, we're losing to Cleveland, not knowing we're real fucking good. And it's like, I mean, you're all right. Like we got, I mean, obviously he knows more than me. He plays football. He's in the building every day. I'm just some dude. Mm-hmm. But, like, I just don't think they're there yet. So for the purpose of this conversation, yes, they're a pretender, but I think
you're definitely look good.
Yes, sure. I'll accept them as the pretender for the AFC, even though.
Do you have anyone else who could be in the conversation?
Not really many teams that have like a lot of stacked wins.
Yeah, I know, right? That's why I think the Browns came out. I mean, like the only other one I think you could maybe talk about would be like the Colts.
But... yeah, and I mean the Colts, they're kind of up and down. I mean, they have good coaches, they have decent staff or decent personnel on both sides of the ball. So I mean,
and we know Phillip Rivers' playoff history. Like, if this team does get to the playoffs, he had a good team around him.
He does well
in San Diego. So it's not like this isn't a quarterback who has a bad playoff record because he's been carrying a shit team. Like the Chargers were a really good team like these last few years, and he had a lot of weapons. He probably had more weapons than he has now. So, and they have a tough schedule ahead, relatively. I mean, we'll see what happens with the Titans, but you know they got to play the Ravens, the Packers, the Steelers. Like
we'll have to see if the Texans improve as well. Now that Bill O'Brien's gone,
I find that hard to believe that's going to happen. Even if even if Bill O'Brien was that bad, like just to uproot everything, it's tough.
We'll see. I mean, I think everyone also in that building knows they're not going to be brought back.
And I think that team. When's the last time a coach got fired and the team made the playoffs?
Oh, there's got to be like never, almost.
Yeah, it's got to be some weird thing where that was like a big deal if it did happen.
They might just be. All I'm saying is they might just be a tougher out because they do have good players.
Yeah.
But we will see. Time will tell.
Okay, so let's just talk about like who. Let's just do to finish the segment up. Let's do our favorite, not one of the top teams, so not Packers, not Chiefs, not Ravens. Who's our favorite contender from each division?
Okay.
From each division? Conference.
Okay.
So we'll start with the NFC.
Okay.
I'll let you go first because I've been going first this whole time.
Okay. My favorite. Excuse me. My favorite. Favorite contender is from the National Football Conference is the Seattle Seahawks.
I like that.
Russell Wilson is very good at football, and he backpacks the crap out of this team, and he's good enough to backpack them all the way to where they need to go. I still maintain he's the best quarterback in the league. I'm steadfast in that claim. They're real good.
Right.
and they really shouldn't be on paper. Their defense is not very good.
Yeah, I would say the biggest question mark there is their defense.
But they have the offense that can come back. They have the offense that can score. They have the offense that can win you the game. So
it's going to be really showing on Monday when they play the Vikings. If Kirk Cousins plays well against them, that's not a good sign for your defense.
It's not a good sign. Well, I mean, I don't think the Seahawks defense. I really don't think they're very good. I don't think they have a lot of good personnel. They have almost no pass rush, or at least no premier pass rush players. People are going to be like, "Bro, what are you talking about? We have Alton Robinson." Like, I don't care. That's not what I'm talking about. They use Jamal Adams like a third linebacker, so that's great that they basically mortgaged all of their draft picks for the future for a third linebacker that they mainly blitz with. But that's neither here nor there. Russell Wilson is good. Let Russ cook.
Mm-hmm.
Let him take you where you need to go.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and say the Buccaneers for mine.
Okay.
I think their defense, it's been surprisingly great. Like they have some really talented players. I even think the addition of Antoine Winfield Jr., he's played really good immediately.
He was my boy, too.
He was my boy as well.
Damn it.
And he's played really, really well immediately. He's really added a lot. Their young secondary's coming alive. Even their corners. They've always had pretty good linebackers. And then they have great passers. Their defense is really good. And then you got Tom Brady.
Their front seven's fantastic,
You got Tom Brady, who we know what Tom Brady does in the playoffs. Especially when he has talent around him like he does. Like, you go down the list, and there's been banged-up players and things all year, and you hope that all kind of clears up by the time you get to the playoffs. But, it's a Tom Brady-led team with ridiculous amounts of offensive talent and then ridiculous amounts of defensive talent. I think that's a formula to get you to the Super Bowl.
I just saw something that made me sad.
Want to share real quick before we end there?
The Browns drafted Grant Delpit one pick before Antoine Winfield.
Oh.
That's not saying that Grant Delpit's not going to be good or that he wouldn't have gotten hurt, but Antoine Winfield's real good, dog.